A little while ago, Evan invited some people in his life to record what they thought they might like to share their thoughts on. And so here's mine. I have 3 little items and I've tried to wrap them all up in a neat little bow. So one is love yourself, love others, and love God. So I'll just take a quick second to explain all of those things. The first one, when I say love yourself, I mean do things that for yourself that are going to be helpful to you later in life, because doing things when you're young really pays dividends later. So basic things like make regular doctor appointments, get your blood checked to see if you are low or missing on any vitamins or whatever. I get mine checked once a year. And men, do not wait until you are almost dead to see the doctor, okay? See the dentist twice a year. Remember to floss. Establish an exercise routine, whatever it is, playing soccer, running, lifting weights, martial arts, swimming, whatever. Just make it something you love, otherwise you won't do it. Find a hobby you enjoy, and this might change as you get older and your physical abilities change. Maybe you want to learn a language or make pottery or build a car from scratch or learn woodworking, whatever it is. I have personally always enjoyed cooking, and that's something that I've been able to take with me for a long time now. And in retirement, I'm also learning how to grow a garden, and that's extra fun for me because I will choose what to grow based on what I want to cook. So, and surround yourself with good friends and good people. So I find that my hobbies lead to friendships. And so many of our long-term, really healthy relationships were formed around the dinner table. We'd have people over for dinner, and time and time again, we'd sit there and just discuss whatever was important to us and make really good long-time friendships. You may, in this life, you may only find one friend that you can go through life with, but you can surround yourself with good people. People who are interested in the same things you are. So if your hobbies are something like video games and sleeping late, well, you know, maybe not so much. But if you have hobbies like learning a second language or getting involved with computers or anything challenging and interesting, it'll give you the opportunity for a lifetime of relationships and opportunities to serve. And the other thing is to save your money. When you're young, it's very important to start saving your money. And when our kids were little, we used to say 50% and give 10% away, and then it's okay to spend the last 40% if you wanted to. You know, now that you're living maybe on your own and you're out of college and you've got a whole bunch of adult expenses, you might find it difficult to save 50%, but I really recommend that you save as much as you can, because that will start building up, and as you get older and older and older, that's all going to be good. And sometimes the way my husband and I did it was we just considered it like paying interest to ourselves. So instead of, like, you know, if you wanted to buy furniture or a car or anything, and you think, gosh, how much is the interest rate going to be on that? Well, instead of paying the interest rate to the credit card company, we just paid that interest rate to ourselves by making cash payments just to ourselves, and then paid for the item in cash. So try to spend cash on whatever it is you can, and then just save the rest. And I think that you'll be really happy with that. Because then, you know, if you have an emergency where you have to buy $500 airplane tickets or something, it's a real burden. But if you've got cash, then $500 isn't that big of a deal because you've got the cash there. And just spend your money on things you really need. And, you know, every once in a while, go ahead and have a good time, buy a new outfit or whatever. But really, if you don't have expenses, go ahead and save it. And then the other one is to love others. And this is the golden rule: treat others the way you want to be treated. I'm sure you've heard that a lot of different times in your life. And, you know, it's easy to like and love others who like and love you. But it is sometimes very difficult to like others when they are not nice to you. At those times, just take a moment and try to remember that nobody is really born a jerk or sarcastic or rude or hard to get along with or mean. Everybody in this world is shaped by circumstances, sometimes circumstances that are beyond our control. And the way we cope with those circumstances help form who we are, our personality, and how we deal with things in this world. So sometimes, you don't have to be that person's best friend, but do try to cut them some slack. You don't know where they're coming from. They could have had a very tough life, and they're just dealing with things the best that they can. And as you go through life, you might find others who need physical or emotional support. If it's possible, I encourage you to try to give them that physical or emotional support. It's good for you as a person. It will stretch you in that you're able to see the needs of other people and look beyond just yourself. And even if it's a very small thing, it may be very important to that person. I know there have been times in my life when I've done things for other people, and to me it was a very small thing, but to them, it was a big deal. So just do it when you can. And then the last thing is to love God. And I know there are some of you thinking, okay, there is no God, I can just skip this part, but just hear me out on this. I know many people have had a bad experience with religion, or somebody trying to ram a distorted view of God down their throat, which is very unfortunate. And if that's your experience, I'm sorry that was your experience. But I would like to let you know that in my worldview, the God of the Bible is the creator of the universe and the creator of man in his image. And he created us as unique individuals to have fellowship with him. And I personally believe that when Adam and Eve sinned in the Garden of Eden and broke that fellowship, he still craved it so much that he was willing to die on a cross and break the bonds of death and offer us once again that possibility of relationship and fellowship. Now, it is an opportunity. You do have to be the one to look for this. You have to discover who God is and then personally accept his offer of a renewed relationship and fellowship with him. And if you do accept that relationship, I believe your life will really be good. Not perfect, not easy, but it will be good. Because you'll have a heavenly Father who's there to help you. You can talk with him through prayer. You can read his word in the Bible. You'll get to know him better. And you can have a real relationship with him. Okay? It's a real thing. It's not a formula. It's actually a relationship. And the more time you spend trying to understand him, the more he informs your life and the decisions you make in your life choices. So know him for one day, know him for 10 years. It just keeps getting deeper and more complex and more satisfying as you grow in the relationship with him. So your will grows more in line with his will. And some people don't like that because they want to live life on their own terms. But I think it's like this. If you put water in the gas tank of your car, it's not going to work because it wasn't designed that way. So likewise, if you try to live this life without Jesus, it's like trying to run your car without gas. Okay? Lots of people do this in life. They try to live without God. But they might bump along for a while, but I think after a while those bumps will turn into hills. And then those hills can sometimes be soul-crushing mistakes. So in my experience, a life that includes relationship with God has a rich opportunity to love yourself, love others, and love God. And I think your life will be good. Thank you.
Hi, I'm going to talk about something which I feel is important regarding houseplants. While many houseplants are labeled and sold as low light, this is misleading. Most houseplants are native to tropical or subtropical climates, where they can be found growing underneath tree canopies. And while some may tolerate low light, they will only thrive if we replicate the conditions in their natural environment. This means placing them in an area of your home where they will receive bright but filtered or indirect sunlight for most of the day. And if you have a houseplant that you'd like to place in the low light area of your home, it's recommended to use a grow light. This will give them the light they need to not just survive, but thrive. And that's all I have to say today. Thank you so much for listening, and goodbye.
Hello, I am here at the airport, which is a place that I like a lot because I think it's really fun and relaxing to watch the planes take off and land. And I like to watch the cars driving up to the terminal to pick people up and drop people off. And I also think it's really cool to think about like how many people come here and leave from here and like the places that they go and the reasons that they're going to those places. I also really like planes in general. I think they're really amazing pieces of technology that we figured out how to build, and just like watching them take off and land and like hearing the noises that they make and all of the logistical effort that goes into making a place like the airport work is just very engaging and cool to me. So I like to come here sometimes just to hang out and watch planes land and think about all these things while I'm here. And I think it's really relaxing and fun. Hey, look, there's a plane landing right now. It's late at night, so my camera quality is not that good. I wonder where they're coming from. I also like to watch planes at the airport with my dad. He doesn't really do it on his own, but he likes to do it with me. So that's something fun. And it's a nice way to think about my family, I guess. Well, my dad specifically, who lives far away. Don't get to see him that much, but I like to go to the airport and tell him about the planes that I'm looking at, and he always responds with interest, which is nice.
All right. Hello, Evan, and whoever else might be listening to this. I have two things I want to say. The first is that relationships are the sauce of life. And what I mean by this is that there is nothing more fulfilling, healthy, exciting, or healing than having good people in your life and being a good person to them. As I've gotten older, I've come to realize that existence, just existing as a person, can feel very lonely. And there's a part of that that never goes away. I think that you can only ever truly know what it's like to be you and have your experiences. You will never be able to fully understand what it's like to exist in another person's world, and no one else will be able to fully understand what it's like to be in yours. And I think that's isolating. I think everyone feels this, whether they're conscious of it or not. And because of it, I think every single one of us is looking to be understood, to have someone get as close as possible to knowing what it's like to be us. And I think that all good relationships do that. They're fun, they're safe, they're positively challenging, by which I mean that they challenge you to grow in good ways, in ways that make you a better person. And they're intimate, they're close, even friendships, they're intimate. Good relationships are two individual worlds trying their best to understand the other and make their existences a little bit bigger. And that's awesome. It really makes life feel a lot bigger and better in many ways. And the second thing I want to say is that life gets better, but you have to make it better. If you're currently, for example, in a bad situation or dealing with a breakup, there's a lot that time can and will heal. But just like with an actual wound, just leaving it alone might result in a scar that you carry with you for the rest of your life. To truly live the life that you want to live, you have to clean the wound, apply antiseptic, put on the bandages, and so forth. It's the difference, in my opinion, between moving on and actually growing and learning from the situation. Nothing will be handed to you. You are the only person completely responsible for creating the life that you want to live. And that comes with the responsibility of deep self-reflection, self-improvement, and learning your lessons. And those are the two main things I want to say. I have more, but those have been what has been on my mind lately. So yeah.
Hello, Evan. I'm finally getting around to doing one of the most embarrassing things I have ever done. Alright, so I decided to talk about things I really like about this city, Portland. I've lived here now for over 4 years, and I'm still excited about being here, which I think says a lot. On a day-to-day level, the city brings me a lot of joy, from what I see, to what I eat, to who I talk to. Executive speaker training says to always make a point with 3 key supporting arguments. First, Portland is uniquely situated among some really phenomenal natural spots. You can drive an hour in any direction and be at a totally unique and monumental natural feature. North, you have St. Helens. South, you have Silver Falls. West, you have the coast. And east, you have the Gorge and Mount Hood. Not to mention the crazy amount of other beautiful spots just a bit further out into the PNW. Smith Rock, Painted Hills, Crater Lake, San Juan Islands, Olympic National Park, etc. I really have to keep on top of myself to get outside the city regularly. However, you don't necessarily need to leave the city to see some beautiful greenery. The city's parks and streets are also great, with my favorites including the Japanese Garden, Peninsula Park, Mount Tabor, and the Portland Fruit Tree Project, which I think can take a fair amount of credit for the high number of colorful and diverse fruit trees lining many residential streets. It is now time to move on to my second supporting argument. Exciting! Here, we will talk about what I eat. Portland has quietly become one of the best places in the country for chefs looking to express their creativity, in my opinion. Following the city's ethos of not blindly adhering to social norms, Portland's culinary culture emphasizes yet another set of 3 things: a casual and approachable atmosphere, regardless of the fanciness of the food, complete freedom for chefs to experiment, and proving that ingredients typically seen as undesirable can be made into delicious creations. The PNW has a variety of unique local ingredients and no shortage of small businesses growing, foraging, or processing them. The result is a beautiful local supply chain which culminate in some really cool dishes at local restaurants. Now, it's time for some of my favorites. You know my list of like 150 restaurants, so I want you to know that there's plenty more deserving restaurants here that aren't going to get a shout out. However, I'd like to shout out Portland's coffee scene through Bastion Coffee Roasters, Courier Coffee, and J Vane Cafe. I'd like to shout out Lovely 50/50s, which focuses on turning anything and everything they can grow in their local garden into brilliant sourdough pizza toppings. They also do really great ice cream. Sure Shot Burger, for one of the best smash burgers I think I've ever had in my life. And finally, the fancy ones, Nostrana, Kachka, and Khan, because while they're damn expensive, they are damn good. So finally, I like the people in this city. I hear people talk about the concept of the third space, which the first two, I believe, are home and work. I think my third space is probably the coffee shop. I like slowly getting to know my baristas over a few years, and I really like people watching. So in Portland, I feel like I've seen a lot of artists and a lot of people motivated to do something by their moral compass. So whether I overhear them describe the passion they have for the impact of their job, or just do something as simple as compliment and hold the door for a stranger, I feel like I see a lot of positive people in Portland's coffee shops. So they make me happier. Okay, that is it. I have finally done it. This is Sam, signing off.
In music, counterpoint is the term used to describe two or more independent melodies or voices or musical lines played simultaneously. They're related harmonically, but the melodies can be different, have a different contour, different shapes, and different rhythms. I'm going to just demonstrate a very small example of that. Here's the first part. That's the first part. Here's the second part. And then put together. In well-written counterpoint, the total is always greater than the sum of the parts. I find it very interesting how two independent voices can each tell a story, and together tell a different story, an even better story. History is counterpoint. Communities of lives lived out simultaneously in linear time become history. When each voice executes its part according to the plan of the master composer, the result is a beautiful polyphony. When voices sing their own part according to their own will, without respect to the others, the result is an ugly cacophony. Seek with all you have to find the part meant for you and add to the beauty.